J. Edgar Hoover was the infamous director of the FBI and its predecessor organizations, where he worked for 48 years under 8 different presidents. And it was only after his death in 1972 that the depths of his corruption was revealed. Hoover kept dirt on everyone he could and used that dirt to manipulate people in whatever way he wanted. He was able to use the FBI to influence not just politicians, but also Hollywood studios as well. He was able to have various planned films canceled or the scripts changed to prevent the portrayal of the FBI in a negative light, including preventing John Wayne from starring in a TV show titled The FBI, which ran from 1965 to 1974 because John Wayne was a member of the John Birch Society, which Hoover despised. The John Birch Society, if you're not familiar with them, is perhaps the first organization created to expose globalism and communist infiltration of the United States. You don't hear much about them these days, but in the late 1950s and 60s, they were quite popular among patriots, and they're credited with starting the anti-New World Order movement. J. Edgar Hoover also targeted anti-war rock and roll musicians like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and particularly John Lennon. In the 1960s, Lennon released an album containing protest songs denouncing the Vietnam War, which enraged the establishment, so J. Edgar Hoover tried to get him deported over a marijuana possession charge that he had received in England sometime earlier. He also worried that John Lennon's outspokenness threatened Richard Nixon's re-election chances. Hoover's files also reveal how ruthless President Roosevelt was. It was believed that his wife Eleanor was having an affair, and after this was investigated privately by the FBI and pretty much confirmed, FDR wanted all the agents who worked on the case killed so they wouldn't spread rumors about his wife's supposed infidelities. The files reveal that he personally ordered all of the agents who worked on the case to be sent to the South Pacific during World War II to fight against the Japanese, quote, until they were killed. Historians admit the rampant corruption led by J. Edgar Hoover, but of course the FBI claims to have made changes to prevent such abuses from continuing, which we all know is a lie. But looking back at how much influence he was able to have decades ago should send chills up one's spine when thinking about what is possible with today's technology. Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer made an ominous threat against President Trump, saying the intelligence agencies have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at him because he dared question their integrity, and certainly they did, so they fabricated evidence to get warrants to spy on Donald Trump and his associates, and then charged many of them with invented crimes, and even used these same intelligence agency dirty tricks to impeach Trump over a phone call that he had with Ukraine's president when he was asking about Joe and Hunter's corrupt dealings in the country. A truly Orwellian scheme, later admittedly conducted by the FBI for decades, is COINTELPRO, an acronym for Counterintelligence Program, which illegally investigated and disrupted political activists, religious organizations, civil liberty groups, anti-war groups, and others that were deemed problematic by the establishment. Martin Luther King Jr. and other leaders of the civil rights movement and those associated with the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, were targeted, as well as groups protesting the Vietnam War, including many college students. J. Edgar Hoover had ordered agents to expose, disrupt, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the leaders and activities of such groups. It's important to understand that most of the targets of COINTELPRO weren't doing anything illegal at all, and they were just trying to change society for the better by encouraging civil rights or protesting the Vietnam War. But that wasn't what the establishment wanted, and it was disrupting the social order. Agents involved in the program did a lot of illegal, underhanded, and dirty tricks to disrupt their targets, including mailing forged letters to leaders of organizations claiming to be from someone else with accusations that someone's wife was cheating on them, illegal wiretaps, spreading false and slanderous rumors about people, frame-ups, vandalism, and more were common tactics still used by the deep state today, of course. In 2013, word spread like wildfire around the world that a former NSA contractor with a high-level security clearance had stolen thousands of classified documents detailing the technical capabilities of the National Security Agency. 30-year-old Edward Snowden fled the country to avoid imprisonment and was given asylum in Russia, and the cache of classified documents that he obtained revealed the shocking details of what COINTELPRO had morphed into. The Snowden leaks proved that the NSA was not just illegally conducting mass surveillance of Americans and virtually everyone around the world without warrants and clearly violating the Fourth Amendment, but they also proved the government's protocols extended far beyond ordinary eavesdropping. Laptops are routinely intercepted by UPS during shipment after being purchased from online retailers like Amazon and then fitted with special hardware, including microcellular modems so that their hard drives could be accessed even if the computers aren't connected to Wi-Fi or the internet in any way. This operation is called interdiction, by the way. We also learned that the government has the ability to manipulate online polls on websites, a program called Underpass. They restrict YouTube videos from going viral or have them removed for phony terms of service violations. That program is called Silverload. And if they want, they can make certain videos receive tons of views and give the appearance that they've gone viral. That's codename Slipstream. They intercept millions of webcam feeds and scam the people chatting over them with facial recognition systems to identify them. That's Operation Optic Nerve. They collect nudes and other compromising photos of people so that they can be blackmailed or publicly humiliated by releasing them. They call that Love Int or Love Intelligence. And they have the ability to record and store every phone call in the entire world. Not just a record of who called who, but the actual audio of the calls using Project Mystic. They can also spoof anyone's email address and send emails under any identity, not to mention spoof any phone number. This is just a sample of their capabilities. And of course, this is all done under the umbrella of national security. Edward Snowden confirmed that the government has what he called turnkey tyranny power. And with the flip of a switch, they could target anyone anywhere in the world. Not only can they physically locate you and bug you through cell phones and webcams in the area, but the deep state operatives can find out everything about a target from your most intimate communications sent through text messages or emails to stealing your personal photos from your phone or your cloud storage to uncovering health problems, shopping habits, eating habits, political views, friends, family, acquaintances, personal finances, gun ownership, etc., etc. This power is so incredible that no man can resist abusing it, and it's how the deep state keeps politicians in line and prevents them from asking too many questions. When he was on Tulsi Gabbard's podcast in December 2022, Tucker Carlson said this.
There are members of Congress who are controlled by the intel agencies. I'm not speculating on this. You know, I lived there for 35 years. I know this. I had a very high-ranking member of the House Intel Committee tell me at dinner at a restaurant in Washington when he'd been drinking, we got to talk about this. And I said, oh, I'll text you. He goes, I can't text. And I said, why is that? And he goes, well, because NSA reads my text. And I said, NSA reads it? Wait, you're the head guy on the Intelligence Committee. You're their boss. You're providing oversight in our constitutional system. He's like, yeah, but, you know, they're still spying at me.
Sadly, this shouldn't be a surprise. It should be expected. But even long before Edward Snowden detailed what's happening and provided the public with the actual names of the programs, some people knew about Echelon and Carnivore, although that doesn't make it any less disturbing. Carnivore monitors all internet traffic, by the way, and has since at least 1997. And long before that, Echelon, a SIG-INT collection system or signals intelligence, had been capturing and monitoring all electronic signals like telephone calls and satellite communications. There had been rumors of Echelon and its capabilities in the 1980s, and in 1983, intelligence expert James Banford discussed such technology in his book, The Puzzle Palace. Then, in 1998, the European Parliament published a report titled An Appraisal of Technologies of Political Control that showed the existence of the massive spy system, which would later be known as Echelon. This system is so powerful. For decades, and even today, some people don't believe that it's capable of doing what it does. Echelon monitors millions of phone calls in multiple languages at the same time and can actually pick out specific people's voices from among the millions of calls. This is called a voice print, and if a specific individual is targeted for whatever reason, if they talk on a phone, whether it's on a payphone, on the side of the street, or a complete stranger's cell phone, within within seconds, their voice print will be detected and the system will flag that conversation for further analysis. Equally amazing is Echelon's ability to detect strings of specific keywords from the millions of conversations occurring. For example, if two people are having a conversation and they use several words in succession that have been flagged by the system, then that conversation will be detected by Echelon for further analysis to determine whether or not the people were talking about a recent news event or if they're potentially dangerous individuals who are planning on, say, harming the president. Although if someone was planning something like that against President Trump, then they'd probably look the other way or reach out to them and offer their help, but that's a whole other story. If this seems too complicated, then think again. Google can find a specific set of keywords out of the billions and billions of web pages in a fraction of a second after you search for them. Also, back in 2009, the Shazam app was released for iPhone that allows people to instantly identify the name of practically any song that they hear, whether it's on the radio or playing on a TV commercial. It doesn't matter if there's background noise or people talking while it's detecting the song, the app still works. The History Channel aired a show called Echelon, the most secret spy system, back in 2003, 20 years ago, that included interviews with James Bamford and even General Michael Hayden, the director of the National Security Agency at the time. A Canadian intelligence analyst who worked for Canada's equivalent of the NSA admitted this.
While I was at CSE, a classic example, a lady had been to a school play the night before, and her son was in the school play, and she thought he did a lousy job. Next morning, she was talking on the telephone to her friend, and she said to her friend something like this: "Oh, Danny really bombed last night." Just like that. The computer spit that conversation out. The analyst, erring on the side of caution, he listed that lady and her phone number in the database as a possible terrorist.
And you may recall in the 1998 thriller Enemy of the State, Gene Hackman's character makes a comment about this technology, saying this.
Fort Meade has 18 acres of mainframe computers underground. You're talking to your wife on the phone, you use the word bomb, president, Allah, and you have 100 keywords. Computer recognizes it, automatically records it, red flags it for analysis. That was 20 years ago.
Most of the viewers thought that this was just a Hollywood fantasy, but the writer was obviously aware of Echelon, and a lot of the technology in Enemy of the State was based on actual systems. Obviously, Echelon is used for political spying and blackmail, but also industrial espionage as well. It's believed that in the 1990s, the system was used to illegally spy on a German company called Enercon in order to steal their trade secrets that they were using to build wind turbines. A Belgian company called Lernout and Hospi had trade secrets stolen from them by American intelligence operatives involving speech recognition technology they were working on because their executives were being illegally monitored by Echelon as well. You can imagine how else this system can be abused. Deep state operatives could look for keywords spoken from specific people to determine if they were aware of a sensitive issue, scandal, or crime. They could easily implement a search for keywords for the Bilderberg Group, the Bohemian Grove, or cross-reference them with the voice prints of every member of Congress so that if any of them were to mention these words during a telephone conversation, then that conversation could be flagged and later analyzed to see what exactly they're saying about such groups and maybe give them a little talk to encourage them to cease and desist. George Orwell wrote in 1984 that, quote, every citizen, or at least every citizen important enough to be worth watching, could be kept for 24 hours a day under the eyes of the police. Is a certain senator planning on raising the issue of the Bilderberg Group on the floor of the Senate, blowing their decades of cover? If so, then a blackmail, intimidation, or coercion scheme would likely be put in place to prevent this security breach and save the Bilderberg Group from the unwanted attention such public comments would bring them. And sadly, none of the brand name conservative talk show hosts or political pundits want to bring it up either. They're either too afraid to be called a conspiracy theorist or worse, maybe their corporate controllers just don't want them to direct their audience down the Bilderberg rabbit hole. I've gone deep down the rabbit hole, however, and if you want to hear all about it, then order my book, The Bilderberg Group, Facts and Fiction, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from Kindle, iBooks, Nook, or Google Play. As many of you know, my books are a lot more in-depth and hardcore than my videos, which I have to tone down a bit for obvious reasons, but the info is in the books, as clear as day and fully sourced. So head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.